In 1905, when they started to open the reservation, A.M. Murdoch, who was kind of the father of Duchesne, he set up a tent and had a little store there. His daughter's name was Dora, and so Duchesne was named Dora for a short time. Then they changed it to Theodore, which we have a little cemetery up on the bench that was there for several years that was named as the Theodore Cemetery. But then Roosevelt was named Roosevelt after Theodore Roosevelt, so then they changed the name to Duchesne.
My great-grandfather, Thomas, came to Duchesne in 1903. He brought a herd of sheep in here for A.M. Murdoch, and there was a large Indian camp nearby, and they proceeded to take most of his sheep and run him out of the country.
At that time, it was mainly ranching, farming. There was quite a few large sheep ranches here. That they would have as many as 4,000 head of sheep. About the time that the sheep ranching started to phase out, the oil industry started in.
Shell Oil Company in particular, and several other smaller ones, came in here in the 70s and started drilling and producing.
And back in that days, the oil was booming, and so there was a lot of money to be made. You could not go to college and go to work in the oil field and make a lot of money.
Businesses thrived that wouldn't have thrived a few years before. And we've seen ups and downs in that business where we rely so heavily on the oil exploration and production.
It's kind of challenging though, because us as parents, we know we've been through the boom and bust, and so we say, save your money, don't expect it to last forever. 3 months it can be gone, and the kids don't seem to understand that.
It isn't just the oil company that it helps. It makes for a lot of jobs. It's little machine shops, it's big machine shops, it's the welder, it's the home builder, it's everybody that gets involved in it. And so it is positive.
The Bureau of Reclamation came in here, I guess they started serving right after World War II for the Central Utah Project.
And so at that time they brought in a lot of people for the Bureau of Reclamation, and there was a Bureau of Reclamation camp here on the west end of town.
I worked for the concrete contractor that worked on Starvation Dam, and it was quite an operation. A big boon to this community.
But they built Starvation Reservoir and several reservoirs around here to give water to the farmers. When the early settlers were here, one winter it was very tough. There was a bunch of cattle that died of starvation, and so they always called it the Starvation Flat.
The recreation that it affords us now is unmatched in a lot of ways. It is so close. It gave us a water supply for our culinary uses that is as good as you'll find anywhere. I was second generation to go to high school here. My kids were third, and I've got the fourth generation going to high school here now. Duchesne leaves a soft spot in my heart when you speak about the schools here.
I enjoyed the teachers at that time, the ones that I had, and then they got rid of that old school and they added on to another one. And then just in the last 10 years they built this school, and it's very, very nice.
They are a lot better than they used to be, academically as well as the facilities that we have.
The sports programs are good because I think sports has a lot to do with the growth of a child.
There's such a small town that the boys they play everything. They go from football to basketball to track to baseball, and it's just a continual cycle.
Everybody's proud of their kids, and when they do well, you're proud of them. When they don't do so well, you encourage them to do better. And it seems to kind of culminate in high school sports.
Are there any rivalries between the schools. And yes, there is. There always is that, you know. And sometimes our D on the heel will get painted red from Altamont, you know, or Duchesne will go to Altamont and paint their A blue for the Eagles, you know. They still get along. And of course, they always want to beat Duchesne or Altamont or Tabiona, so there is the rivalry. But they all seem to get along.
My husband's family is actually the Cowan's Cafe, and this is the third generation that they've had Cowan's Cafe.
The people are fantastic down there. I used to work for a gym, and now Kelly's got it. So it's just kind of passed down from generation to generation, which is really cool.
There was Reed Cowan, Jim Cowan, and Kelly Cowan, who I'm married to. Their families was one of the first families that come out here to settle the community. It was established in 1933, although the building has been here since 1931. Moore's Cafe, they lost it in the Depression, and Reed Cowan come in and bought it from them, and then it's been running as Cowan's Cafe since. All the big stars used to come and stop in at Cowan's. It was quite a fancy restaurant back in the day. They had white tablecloth linens, you know, and stuff. A lot of people come to Cowan's because this is a home base. I mean, you as a kid, you come here, and then when you get older, you come back, and when you come in here, you kind of have a reunion. There's people you know and see. And as a community, we like to help out the sports teams and help them out, but the townspeople help us, the county fair people come in, and it's kind of a big family. There's, you know, you make friends in here, and we've lost a lot of friends in here, so.
This is the Pope Museum, and it was put together by Fred and Marie Pope. He was a rancher, and he loved to work with his horses. Then one day the doctors told him that he couldn't ride anymore, so he decided he would start making these dioramas. And him and his wife worked really well together on these, because she made the clothes and he dressed the horses. Now, she didn't make the dolls, but she did take a hot iron and stuck in their hands to belt them over so they could hold the reins. The metal on the wheels of each one of the wagons in there was made out of a tuna fish can. I think Fred would be appreciative of what we've been doing up here. I just think that we need to keep our history alive so children nowadays know that where we came from.
Caleb Rhodes came out here and got gold out of the mines for the Mormon Church, for Brigham Young. And so people have looked for it forever.
There's been locations for that all over the Uinta Basin, and speculation all the way from stolen gold and cached in the Uinta Basin as to several mining places in the Uinta Basin.
There's rock writings that are supposed to indicate where it's at, but it has been an ongoing thing in the Uinta Basin, and people have talked about it forever and have looked for it, and nobody has found it yet, so I guess they'll still have things to look for.
The Lost Roads Gold Mine every year sends people into the mountains looking and searching, and there's always a few people that find a little bit here and there. If I understand my statements from church officials, will stay lost until they need it again.
There's a grave up here in our cemetery that they dug up the fellow, and there's all kinds of evidence that it is the Sundance Kid.
My brother married what would be his granddaughter, and from what she can show us, I believe it's pretty much the case. And makes a great story if nothing else.
This gentleman lived outside of town, about 3 miles. They found him dead out in the chicken coop. He had been shot. When they did the forensic on it, they say that it is the Sundance Kid.
He was definitely a character. Everyone that knew him knew he was some sort of outlaw. They just didn't know he was a famous outlaw. There's probably as much evidence that he was as that he is not. So you have to make your own mind up on that.
Small towns might have their riff-raffs here or there, but during the county fair, everybody comes together.
I think it's just a good gathering place for people to come, you know, and kids can sell their stock, and then you can see the derby and the horse races and all of the exhibits down there.
A lot of my friends from high school come out because their families are here, still here, but they have moved on and gone out to the city, but we still keep in touch during the county fair. So it's a good time for everybody to keep in touch.
The bridge in Bridgeland, they're going to move that bridge to the fairgrounds, and to most people it's exciting because we used to have two structures like that. We would like to see it preserved, and it'll be fun to have it.
The Duchesne County Veterans Memorial Wall, lifelong dream. I never felt like that our local veterans had any place that they could at least get some credit for the service rendered.
We had talked about it for several years, and so finally we just decided we would do it. We started asking for donations. People donated the cement work, they donated the engineering, they donated the electrical work. Everybody came together, and within just a little over a year, we raised the money and dedicated it. It's all paid for.
It's just been real important to all of these people to serve for their country, you know. They love it and they want to keep it that way, the way it is.
There's probably 2,000 names on the memorial, and each name is not just a name that's carved on the stone. There's a story behind each one of it. And as we researched these names, it was so emotional.
I'm proud of the heritage of our military in the Uinta Basin.
As you go by that memorial, there's always somebody stopped there. And it has been kind of a healing thing for some of the people, some of the veterans, you know. And you'll see people just stop sitting there and reading the names and just meditating there. People that were raised here are hard workers, and they've learned how to work, and so when they get jobs, people appreciate having that type of person work for them because they were raised to work. And I think when it comes down to it, everybody will work together. Of course, our schools in sports, they compete against each other, you know, but I still think that small communities stick together. Just 2 or 3 years ago, we had a lot of flooding out here, and people did come together and worry about their neighbors.
Worked all night and brought in rocks and you know, brought in all that kind of stuff.
The county pitched in and helped, and everybody pitched in and helped.
Anytime there's an emergency, if somebody has a fire, you know, something, anything, a lot of the community will get together. I know they'll do donations as well as clothes, you know, money. They all get together and try to help out as much as they can possibly help out. So it's a close-knit community that way.
Raising kids here, I knew that if I didn't know where my kids were, somebody else knew where my kids were at.
People care about each other no matter what, whether you're sick or whether you've lost a loved one. We all kind of congregate together and support each other.
The fact that you be a team player in some respect, whether that be sports or church or community involvement, civic involvement, is very important to being raised here.
People that are raised in small communities that have to work hard, they have a good work ethic. And I think you'll still see that same work ethic here in Duchesne County.